would you feel if your DNA was stored in a database without your consent? Would you feel angry or insecure that your privacy has been violated? Or on the contrary, would you feel at ease and safe? We do not have this problem in the European Union as there exists a regulation, the GDPR or General Data Protection Regulation. But what if I told you that this could be done with your face using face recognition? But wait, hold on. What is face recognition exactly? With facial processing, an artificial intelligence system is able to obtain higher level information, such as emotions, demographic attributes, or a person's identity. This last type of information is what we call face recognition, when a biometric software is capable of uniquely identifying a person by analyzing a given face and comparing it to a database. Now, let's assume that a face recognition surveillance system gets implemented in your city, and the justification of its use is to reduce crime by identifying individuals with an arrest warrant or that are detected to have committed crimes. Would you, in this case, feel safer? Or would you feel watched by the police as they could know at all times where you are and with who? Something similar happened in London. The police installed a van with cameras that used face recognition on everyone that walked that street. They registered the faces from the people to cross-link them to a secret watch list. However, these matches were not very efficient, and several innocent people were wrongly identified as criminals. They even fined a man who decided to cover his face to protect his privacy. This is a real concern as people from the UK express their worries of this technology reaching their CCTV system. The next case where facial recognition is used is worthy of a Black Mirror episode. If you're not familiar with this science fiction series, it explores a disturbing near future where new technology developments clash with the worst human instincts. Trust me when I say it makes you think. As a matter of fact, not only is the next case worthy of the series, but also it is quite similar to an already existing episode. If you know the series, you might remember episode 1 of season 3 called Nosedive, where eye implants and mobile devices are used to rate people depending on their actions and the impression they give them, affecting their socioeconomic status and thus limiting their life options. For example, if someone has a low rank, they cannot opt for a better apartment nor a nice car. In China, something not that different is actually happening. The government openly recognizes that the citizens are put under watch and what they do or say affects their social credit score. This credit is needed for almost everything, from buying clothes or food to using transportation means like trains and airplanes. They even use their faces as an authentication method to be able to access the internet. Maybe you feel it is too much to be forbidden to get on a train or to access the internet if they mark you with low social credit score, but how would you feel if by being a good citizen you could get benefits, such as a free pass on a fine or pay less taxes? Would you still be against this system?
There is no doubt that there are real benefits to using facial recognition systems for public safety and security. But the intrusive nature of this technology, as well as their susceptibility to error, give rise to a number of fundamental rights concerns regarding, for example, the discrimination against certain people and violations of the right to data protection and privacy. On several occasions, the European Parliament has called for limits to the use of facial recognition in the EU. The Parliament has stated that the gathering and use of biometric data for remote identification in public areas presents particular risks for fundamental rights. According to a report from the Amnesty International, at least 64 countries are actively using facial recognition systems in the world today, but there is not one single country with a specific legislation for this kind of technology. In the EU, face recognition technology related processes must follow the principles of the Charter of Fundamental Rights, the GDPR, the Law Enforcement Directive, and the EU Framework on Non-Discrimination. Even though European courts are attempting to close the gaps in protection through an extensive interpretation of the already existing legal framework, legal uncertainties and complexities still remain. This shows that there is a need for specific legislation for this technology in Europe. To address this issue, in April of 2021, the European Commission disclosed a proposal for an EU Artificial Intelligence Act. The AI Act would be the first law on AI by a major regulator anywhere in the world. It introduces new rules for the use of AI applications, differentiating them into different risk levels according to their effect on population. This law also pretends to establish a technology-neutral definition of AI systems in order not to get outdated with the pass of time and the surge of new technologies. The classification according to the risk is the following. An acceptable risk. These are AI systems considered as a clear threat to people's safety and rights, and they would be completely banned. Examples of these would be systems that are designed to manipulate human behavior through subliminal techniques and social scoring by governments. High risk. These are AI systems which create adverse impact on people's safety or their fundamental rights. These include systems used in private services, for example, credit scoring that denies citizens the opportunity to obtain a loan, systems used in law enforcement, migration, asylum, and border control management, among others. These systems would have to go through a conformity assessment before being cleared to be on the market, and they would follow a range of safety requirements. Once placed in the market, they would go through an ex-post market surveillance and supervision process. Systems presenting a limited risk would only need to follow a limited set of obligations, mostly based on transparency. And systems presenting minimal risk would only need to follow the already existing legislation. In theory, the AI Act prohibits the use of AI systems for real-time biometric identification for the purpose of law enforcement. But there are three exceptions in which it would be permitted: to search for potential victims of crimes, for the prevention of a substantial and imminent threat to the life of people or to prevent terrorist attacks, and for the identification or persecution of a perpetrator or a suspect of a serious criminal offense. These exceptions were made because it is believed that the mentioned situations carry enough public interest to outweigh the risks for fundamental rights. But others believe that these exceptions should not exist, because if you allow the use of this technology in certain situations, like for example, searching for a missing child, nothing stops the government from using it for other illicit purposes, like mass surveillance. There are many examples of a misuse of a technology by governments. This is the case of the Catalangate scandal, in which the Spanish government used Pegasus, which is a software intended to spy on terrorists and other criminals, but instead they used this technology to spy on political rivals, journalists, and members of the civil society. So, should we allow governments to use these extremely powerful technologies in the name of national security, or the threat to our fundamental liberties is too high?
Outside governmental institutions, there are also organizations that fight for our privacy and for our rights to be respected. For example, Access Now not only focuses on privacy, but it also focuses on freedom of expression, digital security, business and human rights, and net discrimination. Reclaim Your Face is a European movement that questions the use of biometric data to monitor the population. And the Big Brother Watch is a UK campaign group that is determined to reclaim our privacy and our freedom. With this, we hope that the importance of protecting something as important and personal as our faces reached you, or at least it made you think where you stand. Do you agree that until this matter is regulated, the use of facial recognition must be stopped, or are you of the contrary opinion?